This is Lightning Power Lunch, presented by Reef Rum on the Lightning Audio Network with Dave Mishkin and Greg Linnelli.
Yeah, so if I could throw out two games, I throw out Vancouver and I throw out the Rangers. Gave up 6, gave up 7. Other than those two games, I really can't think of a game where we gave a team a lot of opportunity. And I think that's been the biggest thing. So we started, whatever it was, 1-4-2, I think, in our first 7 games. And we were pretty loose. We were giving up goals, but not only giving up goals, but giving up like quality chances. And I think we had a 3 or 4 day stretch where we didn't play. And we just harped on that and banged on that and had meetings on that and had practices on that and made practices hard. So we played harder, we played firmer. And then it started to, we started to see it in games where, we were stingier on defense. We were playing like a little tighter, not as loose. And, at the end of the day, we've got some skill for sure with our top players and, Pointer and Cooch and Hetty and all those guys. They're, magical players make magical plays at times, but we have to play defense. And, it's proven over time that defense wins hockey games. And, we did it when we were winning cups before. We were stingy to play against, and that's the way we have to play. And that's kind of been the difference lately.
Rob Zettler getting it done. Hey, Coach, defense just doesn't win games. It wins championships. I always love those sayings, because it makes you think, and you're like, what does that really mean? Because obviously you need to defend if you're going to win games, but, the thinking is in any sport really is that, offense wins games, defense wins championships. And, there's an overarching point made in a lot of those things. Of course, you need both, but collectively in a postseason, you need to be pretty sound defensively, or else you're going to get exposed because the other teams are probably just as good as you talent-wise, maybe even a little better in the regular season. Although with the salary cap, there tends to be a little bit more, gaps between teams who are at the top and teams who are at the bottom. Although, look, like I said, I think the cap and the players getting better has narrowed that margin. So I do think that's why the 82-game season, it's not the same as the playoffs, but it's certainly more challenging than it was 25 years ago because you can't take a night off. I think that's fair to say. So there is, we get into this conversation about injuries and taxation on players from a physical perspective, not in their pocketbooks, although that can happen. I think the games are harder in the regular season because the talent gap has been evened out. But it still holds true that in a 4-round tournament that is the most grueling in any sport, you have to be able to defend, and with that probably comes really good goaltending. That continues to be a staple. I think that gap has narrowed a bit in the regular season, but there's still a drastic difference, I think, once you get to the regular season and the postseason, really in any sport.
I think it's true in the regular season as well, though. I mean, it's hard to defend at a championship level for 82 straight games, but this is what we've been talking about on the show. Like, if you hold the other team to, let's say, 2 or less, and maybe that standard is too stingy, but even if you're holding the other team to 3 or less, you are going to give yourself a chance to get games to overtime.
Yeah.
And if you get games to overtime, you're avoiding regulation losses and you're getting points. Maybe you're not getting 2, you're getting 1. You need to win some of those games that get to overtime. But in the regular season, the name of the game is points. And to me, the best way to get points is to hold the other team's goal total down. This may be true in a lot of sports. I mean, I don't know if in baseball they say pitching wins championships, not defense, because the pitcher has such an outsized influence, or pitching has such an outsized influence on the outcome of games. But I think it's definitely true in some of the other sports where, you are tasked with defending. And at least in hockey, defending well requires, at the very base level, hard work. And if you're working hard defensively, you're probably working hard offensively. You can score some goals without sometimes working as hard, and if that bleeds into your defensive game, you may be giving up chances. And if you're going to run into a team that's going to outwork you because they're playing extremely hard defensively, you're going to have a hard time winning. I think this is a little different than it was certainly when I was growing up, certainly when you were growing up watching the Penguins with Lemieux and Yager. Like, until we really got to the mid-90s, when coaching and video as a complement to coaching really became a standard coaching tool, how teams defended was less precise. It just was. And, teams that had more talent offensively were just more likely to win. I think that there is an element of truth to that still. But what we found in the 90s, particularly as we got into the dead puck era, when this completely took hold, that you could be a less talented team, but if you played really cohesive hockey, really just foiled the other team's attack repeatedly and got some counter chances, you had an opportunity to win, even if you didn't have as talented a roster. I think that's leveled a little bit because the teams with the most talent still do really, really well, but it's not enough. You have to be able to defend as well. The difference was and I use the Gretzky Oilers often as an example, but pick another team. Pick Bossy and the Islanders. Pick Phil's Bruins in the early 70s. The Canadians, I think, were probably the closest team in the mid to late 70s they really, you lose 8 games in a season, which they did, I think, in 76, 77. You had ties then, but they only lost, I think, 8 games during the regular season. So they could defend really, really well, too. Sure. But in those days, it was like, we're not going to be able to stop Gretzky. Gretzky's going to get points tonight. So we kind of have to figure out a way to score enough to compete. That has completely changed. Yeah, you have McKinnon and McDavid, and you have the high-end guys, but is it guaranteed that Nathan McKinnon's going to get 2-3 points every game? No, it's not. You can defend McKinnon better than teams could defend Gretzky or Lemieux or Phil in those days. And that's where the game has really changed and leads to comments like we heard from Coach Zettler, which is really what we've been talking about a lot this year. At the beginning of the year, the Lightning weren't defending well enough. Even if they weren't giving up as many goals as they might, because the goaltending was helping them out, we were saying they need to tighten this up. And those 3 days of practice that he referred to, they came back from Columbus. They lost in Columbus on a Saturday. They lost by a goal. They could have lost by a lot more than a goal. Johansson played in that game. He was very, very good. They got Sunday off, and then they had Monday, or maybe they had Sunday practice. They had 4 days before the next game. They had 3 practices. One was an off day. It had to have been Sunday because they had a back-to-back leading into that first off day. Practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They played Chicago on Thursday. They lost that game. They fell to 1-4-2, but we came on the show the next day, and I said, that's the way they need to play. They didn't win. The fans were up in arms. They were, 1 win in 7 games and all of that. That's okay. But I'm like, that's their template. And they kept playing that way. They rolled off 5 straight wins. They're 12-3 in the last 15. And Zetz is right. Like the 2 outlier games, there was a little bit of bad luck in there too, because the Lightning had some pucks going off them, like weird goals against, but they gave up the 13 goals in the 2 games to the Rangers and the Canucks. Outside of those games, the Lightning have not allowed more than 3 goals in a game, and more often than not, it's been under 3. That's why they're winning, because they really haven't been tearing it up offensively, Greg. The guys who are expected to tear it up offensively are just starting to get hot. Hagel had a stretch in October.
Right.
He had, I think, 7 goals in 7 games. But Cooch, it's been fairly recent that Cooch has kind of taken off here. He's on a 6-game point streak coming into this game. He's got 11 points. That is more Cooch-like. But we weren't seeing that at the start of the year. So how are the Lightning doing it? They were really doing it with keeping the goals against down. Their power play, their power play has not really helped them out, except on an odd chance here and there. Helped them in the Vegas win at Vegas. Helped them beat Anaheim at home. But they haven't really been able to rely on getting a lot of goals from their power play. So this is really positive, and they've done it in the face of injuries. Sometimes it's hard to defend well when you have lots of injuries, and injuries to key guys like McDonough, like Hedman. They've still managed to to keep munching points.
Here's
Tonight they see a team, Calgary, that got off to just a horrendous start. They won their first game in a shootout, and then they didn't win again for 9 games. They went, 0-7-1. So not just they went 8 games without a win, they lost 7 in regulation. And their biggest problem then, and to an extent still now, not defending, scoring. They are actually a decent defensive team. But in the 8 games they went without a win, they scored only 12 total goals. Even I can do that math. That's a goal and a half a game on average. That's not going to cut it unless you're going to win a game 1-0, right? It's very hard to do. So they've kind of righted the ship. They've been kind of a hockey 500 team since that awful stretch, but they fell behind, and now they have to try and catch up. So they won 3 in a row coming in. They're starting to score a little bit more. Rasmus Andersson is probably I don't know if he's their best offensive defenseman, but he's a good offensive defenseman. He's got 10 points in his last 5 games. So he's helping. Matt Coronado had scored goals in 4 straight games before the last game, but he had an assist, so he's got a point streak. Like they're starting to put the puck in the net a little bit more, and if they're defending okay, they're going to start getting points more than not getting points. But the question is, can they make up ground that they gave up early in the season?
You know, it's interesting. I was going to make a point about the Lightning, and this
I rolled right into Calgary.
No, that's fine. We can get into Calgary because I think when you look at their roster, something jumps out even more so that probably puts things in perspective and ties into what we talked about earlier just a few minutes ago about scoring in today's game. And I think it falls in line. But when you talk about the Lightning, you're right. It's interesting. I think they've defended maybe as well as they have, maybe because of circumstances too, because of who's been out. It doesn't mean they haven't been, perfect, but isn't that interesting that they are finding ways to defend? One, because they have to, but 2, I mean, they're doing it with guys who are taking on a bigger role than they have in the past, or guys who haven't had a ton of NHL experience and are coming up and are either getting better, like Lilleberg, or Destu, limited experience, getting better. Radish kind of taking a bigger jump in his progression. And then I think collectively at the forward position, they have found some guys who have come up, and while they have defended, I mentioned, a guy like Dominic James who, when the Lightning are rolling offensively, I tend to think their defensive game benefits from it because they're playing with the puck. And I still think the Lightning are a possession type team. What is interesting to expand on your point a little bit about just the Lightning and their offense in general, I think it's fair to say Cooch, who, if you look at the stats, this is what's astonishing, 25 points through 20 games. I mean, he's a point-per-game guy. Right. You've heard me say on this show, I think he could roll out of bed and probably get 2 points. It's a little bit of an exaggeration, but the point. The point is taken. He has a tendency to, you kind of look down at the score sheet and you say, oh, well, he had 3 points tonight. And it's like, it doesn't feel like it, but that's just, he's a point muncher, if that's what you want to say. But that's a quiet 25 points collectively, in my opinion. But if I were to sit here and tell you, partner, that between these 2 players, who do you think they are? Player A has played in 21 games and has 11 points. And player, let's call it B, has played 16 games and he's got 9 points. And if you were thinking about it, like, okay, who could that be? Well, Braden Point is point A. He's got 11 points through 21 games. Doesn't hit you until you see that number. By the way, player B, I know different positions, but it kind of speaks to maybe the slump Point is in, is Darren Radish. He's got 9 points in 16 games. I mean, again, understand different circumstances, roles different. Of course, they play different positions. Maybe speaks to where Braden Point is offensively. We understand injured, but just that's the type of slump you're looking at. And for Radish's sake, playing probably the best hockey of his career. And it just, the Lightning's offense hasn't been clicking because it's true. For the most part, they've been a little bit off. I mean, Bjorkstrand's been off. Point has been off. By the way, those are 2 major players offensively. Hagel struggled at the beginning, but he's been their guy right now with Cirelli. I mean, they've been consistent. But think about it. If I were to sit here and say, really 3, because if you want to put Nick Paul in there, who was injured, of course, but 3 of your top 9 forwards were going to have inconsistencies in their game and maybe some serious slumps. You'd look at that, okay, I can see why the offense is a little up and down. And I think that I look at it from an optimist point of view because I think that's going to get better. I think Point will figure it out. We've said this Bjorkstrand. Let's hope he figures this out. But yeah, I mean, it makes even more sense about the defense is that, yeah, there have been at times peaks and valleys with that, but they have defended. And they've gotten good goaltending with that for the most part, even though the save percentage may not look great on Johansson's end. We know he's been good.
Vasi's is creeping up. I think he's in the 9 teens now. I heard Steve on Daily Strike saying, I think he said he was 3rd in save percentage. Now, that's probably minimum number of minutes played because, like, Devin Cooley for Calgary, I don't know if he's going to play tonight, but he's come up. He's got outstanding numbers, but he's only, like, appeared in, like, 5 games or 6 games.
Right.
So he may not qualify. I think his save percentage is like .935 or something like that.
Right.
But he doesn't have the same minutes played number as a lot of other guys. So, look, Vasi just had a shutout. That's going to help. He didn't see 40 shots, though. He saw 20. So 20 out of 20 is going to help your save percentage, not as much as 40 out of 40. But Vasi's been like building the blocks. I mean, some got knocked down in that Ranger game because that was an ugly line. But the other games, he's been very solid and, basically allowing 2. So if you're allowing 2, even if you're facing 20 shots, which is low, that's still a 900 save percentage, 18 out of 20. If you're facing more than that, you're going to be over 900. It's going to help your average.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the one consistent really, I think, has been the goaltending, but I think with that, if you were to say what's been more consistent game in and game out this year, the offense or the defense for the Lightning, I think it would be the defense.
Yeah.
I do. I think they've – and who would have thought that? Who would have thought that early? That's a good sign, I think, because you're developing those good habits now. I think the offense comes and goes. I do. I think offense comes and goes, and I think you hope the offense is feeling it more when the postseason comes and guys can take over games, which we have seen the Lightning do over the years. But you want to develop those good habits defensively now, and I think that's a positive sign. Talking about Calgary before we get to some questions at Bolts Radio.
Yeah, and by the way, Steve just sent it. Vasi's tied for 3rd. This is among the leaders. Okay. So Spencer Knight's first, 924. Wedgwood with Colorado second, 918. Vasi tied for 3rd, 913. I would expect that Knight at 924, he should be, if not leading, among the leaders. If you're above 920, you're going to be in the conversation for best or one of the best. 913 is very good. Very good. But I don't know that you're going to be top 5 when all is said and done at the end of the year. I'm kind of speaking a little bit off the cuff here. I can go back and look and see what the leaders were last year. But just my spidey sense tells me 913 is good, but it's not in the elite level like over 920.
And how many crooked numbers has Vasi had this year? I mean, he had the one, right?
Well, the first 2 games, they gave up. Well, there was an empty netter in there for Ottawa, but he gave up 4 in the first game and 5 in the second game.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to put my mic on mute because I didn't close my door. So I'm going to get Enzo decided to come in real quick, and this is live radio.
Is he ready to make his Power Lunch debut? He's like, is it Christmas yet? Where's Santa? You're like, no, we got to eat turkey first.
My wife came in, so that was good. But I think I do think it is something to keep in mind when you start talking about the Lightning and Vasi. Those numbers even speak louder to how consistent he's been. The point I wanted to make about Calgary, you mentioned you mentioned the numbers offensively, and that is 100% true. They don't have a player in double-digit goals. Their leading scorer is Nazem Kadri at 18 points. They have nobody of note in terms of who they rely on, who's averaging a point per game. So that is well taken in terms of the issues they're having. But when I look at their roster, I really don't see a bona fide natural star, somebody who's a superstar. They have good players, but the players they do have who rely on scoring either I think are in that mid-30 range. Like you look at Kadri's age. I mean, he's been in the league a while. And I know he had, I think, a pretty good year a couple of years ago, goal-scoring-wise. So did Blake Coleman, by the way, hitting 30. I don't their guy had to be Huberdeau. Justin Huberdeau, for
Jonathan Huberdeau.
Yeah, Jonathan Huberdeau, for various reasons, has not been the same player in Calgary that he was with Florida. We can dissect why, and those points are well taken. I'm just saying he was supposed to be their superstar. With that, and you're getting paid like one, comes a certain amount of production you need to pile up. He has not come close to that. And I think because of that, I think they have a roster of some good players. They don't have game breakers, at least consistently.
Not yet, anyway. I don't know who they have coming down the pike.
Well, right. But that roster we're looking at right now, yeah, you can see why they have problems scoring. I mean, every team, even if you struggle, you're going to go through moments where you're filling the net maybe for a week or two. It's just, that's the way the NHL works. But there's nobody on this roster. When I look at things, I'm looking at it and saying, man, yeah, you've got a Kucherov. You've got a Hagel, a Point. And again, it's not to minimize Blake Coleman or Jonathan Huberdeau. I think they're good players. I don't know if they have any superstars. And I think you need that in today's NHL. We've talked about that. So not a surprise.
Yeah, so the Lightning swept the season series from Calgary last year. They had a blowout win in Calgary in mid-December, 8-3. That was the game, by the way, incidentally, in which J.J. Moser got injured. So that was a very satisfying win for the Lightning, but it came at a cost, and they missed Moser for a couple of months. And then, I mean, I think even he would say that he was not quite at the same level when he came back from that injury. I think he's at an even higher level this year, but we've talked about JJ Moser, that is.
Right.
The second game was in Tampa later in the year, fairly late in the year, and the Lightning shut out the Flames 3-0. We've talked a little bit about this, I think, fairly recently, that Calgary was a point away from getting the final wild card spot last year in the West. So Calgary had, objectively, a good year. It was an improvement over where they had been the previous couple of years when they had missed the playoffs. Now, remember, they had a huge dismantling of their roster after the 2021-22 season when they had Elias Lindholm, Johnny Gaudreau, Matthew Tkachuk. All three of those guys, within a year or two, well, Gaudreau and Tkachuk were gone the next year. And then soon after, I would say, Lindholm was also moved 2 years ago, right? So they went through a dip, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about that team had no trouble scoring. I mean, that was arguably the most prolific line in hockey, but within a couple of years, they didn't have any of those players anymore. So you're right. They made the trade with Florida. They got Huberdeau. They got Mackenzie Weegar, but they missed the playoffs 2 years in a row. And then, was it 2 years in a row? Yeah, 2 years in a row. And then last year, they had an improvement. So how did they do it last year? I was curious, so I went back and looked. I remember talking with the Calgary people, and John Abbott, who does their television broadcast, joined us on Power Lunch, if you remember. It was the game in Tampa, before the game. And I was like, Calgary doesn't really seem to have anything like exceptional, but how are the Flames in the race? And he's like, well, they may not have anything exceptional, but they do a lot of things pretty well. And they ended up finishing with 96 points, which is usually through 80 games enough. They got 96 through 82, but had they gotten to 97, they would have gotten in the playoffs. They would have passed the Blues.
Yeah.
Blues got the second wild card. So if you look at their team stats last year, Calgary finished 29th in offense. This is a team that tied for the second wild card spot. They had trouble scoring last year, which kind of goes to your point, Greg. Like, they don't really have a game breaker, but they defended.
Yeah.
They were, let's see where they finished. I think they finished in the top half. They were the one team that finished in the top half defensively and missed the playoffs. Calgary finished 16th. So they were right at the cutoff point. They were actually tied for 15th. So how did they get to 96? I think it was a couple of reasons. They defended pretty well. If you recall, Dustin Wolf kind of emerged on the scene to the point that they moved Dan Vladar. Dan Vladar left. He's now playing in Philadelphia, even though he didn't play against the Lightning. and now this Cooley has come up and spot checked Wolf, but Wolf is the main guy. Wolf got a huge extension during the offseason, and he was a Calder finalist last year. So they had goaltending from Wolf, but they got games to overtime. Was it yesterday or the day before I was talking about the teams that had the high water mark for overtime games last year? There were 2 teams that had 24 overtime games last year. That was the most. There are a bunch of teams that are on pace to just shatter that this year. But Calgary last year was one of those teams. Calgary and Vancouver both played 24 overtime games. Calgary Flames lost 14 games in overtime. If they had flipped one of those games, they would have been a playoff team. But on the other side of the argument is because they got 24 games to overtime, they were able to get a lot of what are called the loser points, right? Sure. They got a lot of points from overtime. They defended. They got games to overtime. They got points. That's how they got to 96. This year, they're sinking like an anchor at the start of the year because they're not getting any games to overtime.
That's a good point.
They played 8. They got 1 game to overtime. They lost the other 7 in regulation.
And I forgot to mention maybe their Victor Hedman. What's going on with Mackenzie Weegar? I'm looking at his numbers. He doesn't have any goals.
Dude.
He's a minus 19.
So I actually think Rasmus Anderson might be their Victor Hedman. I like Weegar a lot. He's an offensive defenseman. I think Anderson's going to be on Team Sweden for sure. He's been a double-digit goal guy. Yeah. So, like, the other part is, okay, maybe they don't have a Kucherov, but they do get production from their defense in the goal-scoring category with Anderson and Weegar.
I mean, he's no goals.
And
Weegar.
minus 18. Sorry,
so
minus 19.
I mean, he's basically a 50-point guy since he's been at Calgary when you look at his numbers. Like, no goals and 4 assists.
He has almost never been a minus player.
What?
In his career. And that's playing for these Calgary teams that missed the playoffs.
Yeah, right.
Well, I just looked this up. I'm going to look it up again so I give you the exact stats. But it wasn't that long ago. He's playing in Florida. I believe he led the NHL in plus minus, Mackenzie Weegar.
I mean, I have his numbers here. I can look it up.
Yeah. So, and we can look at the plus minus.
He's a minus 19 this year.
Yeah.
And then let's put it this way.
Give me another year where he was a minus. If he was a minus, it was like -2 or -3 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was in 2018, 2019, he was a -3. But how about these back-to-back years in Florida, 2020, 2021, plus 29, plus 40.
The plus 40 was the year they won the President's Trophy and lost to the Lightning in the second round. I believe he led the NHL in plus minus. So here is career plus minus stats in the NHL starting in his first full year. +5, -3. That was his only minus year. That was 18-19 with the Panthers. +6, +29, +40. Then he gets to Calgary. 3 straight years they've missed the playoffs. +15, +2. Last year, +18. He's -19 this year. To your point, no goals, 4 assists. 2 years ago, he scored 20 goals for the Calgary Flames. But here's the other part that is really surprising. Kevin Ball, who is also a defenseman on the Calgary Flames, is +13. So this is one of those numbers where the number itself for Weegar is shocking because he's just not the sort of player that you would expect to just be even a minus player, let alone -19.
Right.
It's one of the worst in the NHL. It is, I believe, the worst minus right now in the NHL. So that in and of itself is shocking. But one of his teammates is +32 better.
Yeah. Yes. What does that mean?
Now, Ball is playing with Anderson, I think, and Anderson has been pumping in the points. I think Ball is like +7 in the last 3 or 4 games, so that's helping him. Weegar's not getting those pluses, right? But that is very surprising. And for Anderson, a team that, I mean, they've defended okay. Like I said, they're kind of a middle-of-the-pack team defensively this year. It's just they're near the bottom again offensively, and they're not getting games to overtime.
But even Anderson is a +4. If you look at his history, at least the last 2 years, partner, -11, -38.
That was last year. He was one of the worst in the NHL last year.
Well, so
it's like flipped. Last year, Weegar did okay plus minus.
Right.
And Anderson didn't. This year, it's kind of flipped.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of it. Look, I don't profess
Weegar's
to know.
got a huge shot. Like, at some point, he's going to score.
He's a good player. Like, that's just a weird that's just a weird number. So I think
he's just having a bad start to the year.
He has to be.
There's no other way to spin it.
And the Huberdeau thing, you would agree. I mean, like, so the 2 guys you get back, Weegar and Huberdeau, are struggling this year.
Yeah.
And I think you could make the case Huberdeau just has not been who he was in Florida. And again, that's various reasons for that. At Bolts Radio, if you want to get on the conversation, you can. Those are just some things that stood out. Also, too, from a national perspective, you have heard people talk about guys who could be dealt from the Flames. Blake Coleman was one of those guys. I think he's been pretty solid for them. The question becomes, do they want to trade a guy like that? The fact that his name has been floated around by quote-unquote credible people out there in the hockey industry means that there's probably something
he's on
to
an
it.
Expiring contract this year.
Yeah, look, Blake Coleman could help somebody for sure.
Yeah.
And
I mean, he's on the back nine. I mean, he's got a birthday coming up in a couple of days. He turns 34.
Yeah,
But
I mean, he's
still a good player.
He's a good player.
He's got, I think, 8 goals this year, a couple of shorthanded goals, which is kind of part of his appeal, right? He's a very good penalty killer and can score shorthanded.
Right.
So we'll see. If the Flames are out of it, it would make sense for them, unless they want to re-sign Coleman. They're like, we want Blake to be a part of our future as we figure stuff out.
Yeah.
But otherwise, if they're out of it by February, like we get to the Olympic break and they are 12 points out of a wild card spot, let's say,
Right.
he would be a logical candidate to get moved. Because I believe he signed a 5-year deal after the second Lightning Cup. Yeah, so this should be the last year of his deal.
Thaw 345. Let's get some questions. I love Dave, Greg, Phil, Steven, Jared, and everyone involved in Bolts Radio. Well, we appreciate you getting that all out there. I'm going to call it D Slayer, partner. That's what I'm going there. When will Hetty and McDonough be back? We need good defense. They're getting good defense.
Yeah, McDonough will be back before Hedman, but John Cooper even said today it's been a little slower than expected, so they expect him to be on the ice maybe by next week.
Yeah.
On the road trip.
D Slay also wants to know, why are there so many more injuries this season to many teams? I mean, that has been a discussion. Brian mentioned this on the last call. He didn't want to go down that rabbit hole just yet because he felt like it was still early in the season to kind of make any type of judgment on
the wear and tear part.
On the wear and tear part, I think, Phil has been a big believer in, do guys not give their body enough time to just heal? And there's just, lower than 5% body fat. That's great conditioning wise. Is it good for the rigors of an 82-game season? I don't know. I will say this. I do think, and I don't have the analytics to back it up, it's more of the eye test. Although you know how I feel about the eye test. I think oftentimes it has a pretty good spidey sense of what is happening around the league. I do get the sense from our conversation earlier in this show, in various shows, because the games are so much more competitive game in and game out today than 30 years ago, I do think it does put more stress on your body every game. I mean, how many times have we said, this game's going to be a battle? This game's going to be a battle. Guys are blocking shots. Guys are back checking. I'm not telling you it's the best hockey at times, but I think because of the cap, because of the parity, both things, by the way, which the league has embraced, and they've wanted this, I think a results of that has been games that are closer, more intense, and that the regular season means more. And I just think it does take a collective toll on your body, on any athlete, through the course of the season. And then you compound that over 4, 5, 6 years. I think it puts a lot of stress on players, on teams, because of the talent gap has shrunk. And I think we've put a lot of emphasis on getting to that overtime, getting that loser point. Every game means something. There really are no nights off. I mean, before, again, back in the early 90s, you could roll the puck out, and it was the Red Wings taking on the San Jose Sharks, and they would win 9-2. You don't have many of those games. Every game is pretty much competitive. I think that has a collective toll.
You may be right.
I do.
I was thinking about this. So we've said a lot of teams have a lot of injuries. I mean, we just saw a team, Philadelphia, that has not had a lot of injuries this year. The Flames have a couple players hurt, but they're younger players that are just kind of starting out. Most of the regulars have played every game. So I'm wondering, I mean, I don't have the full, it's not like the NFL where the the league releases, an injured list, I guess you can go and look and check every team and see who's on IR. But what I have noticed is the Lightning and the Panthers for sure have had a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
I mean, and so we're focused on the Lightning and we're aware of what's happening with the Panthers. The Maple Leafs are currently without Austin Matthews. That is a huge loss for them. And I believe the injury came from a hit. So it wouldn't have really been wear and tear.
Yeah.
But he got hit in the game and he is out. I mean, has Colorado had a lot of, if they've had injuries, I'm not sure they've been, I mean, McKinnon's been playing, McCarr's been playing, right? I mean, Natchez has been playing. So, I mean, I guess I would be curious, which teams are having injuries? Are they having a lot of injuries? Are they having injuries to significant players? For sure, here in Florida, we've seen it. And I am going to agree with you 100%. There is no question Matthew Tkachuk is out until whenever it's going to be, December, January. That is wear and tear. That is all the deep playoff runs, but he was out even before the season started. I would make the argument that the Barkov injury, which was a freak fluke injury, I'm not a doctor, I don't know this for sure, but I have to believe if the Panthers hadn't had all of this hockey played, would he have just had the same thing happen if it had just been, it was the first day of training camp in the first 10 minutes of him being on the ice. Is that a some kind of a byproduct of all the hockey he's played? Maybe. Kulikov, though, who's out months, got injured from a hit. They played the Flyers. He got smashed into the boards. That could have been an injury unrelated to wear and tear. So I think some of it maybe yes, some of it maybe no. Ryan McDonough blocks a shot with his foot. That
could happen anywhere.
In any year. Yeah.
I think it's
the
more
Hedman injury, like we don't really know what's going on there. Is that a wear and tear injury? Who knows? But I'm curious, like I'm going to pay more attention now when the Lightning have an opponent and let's see actually how many injuries they have.
I think
or
it's
if this
more...
is just kind of one of these narratives that's taken place because there have been injuries to significant players in the league.
And it's a good point. I'm glad you called it out because and this isn't maybe the same example, but it's similar to the narrative that sounded right, but why so many people left Columbus and didn't want to go play there. Remember, that was kind of like, we kind of went player by player, and I think we had Aaron Portzline on, and we said, really, Jeff Carter wanted to get out of there.
He was one example.
Panarin wanted to leave.
There are some players that love playing in Columbus for the reasons they don't want to be in the huge spotlight of a Toronto or a Montreal.
And that's fair. So there
Great
was
place to raise your family.
God rest his soul. Obviously, Johnny Gaudreau wanted to go there. There was some reason for that.
Absolutely.
So there was that narrative that people wanted to leave because on the surface, that's what you saw. And you looked at Columbus, not a major market. People don't want to play there, and that's why all these guys are leaving. And really, when you looked at the numbers, that probably wasn't the case. So I acknowledge, that's why I said I don't have any data to support this. Right. And maybe we got to look at more injuries like the hamstrings, the groins, the quads. Maybe it's
Luos Arena got injured at a barbecue. So, there's the opposite of wear and tear. Like he was relaxing and had a freak injury.
Yeah,
Jack Hughes, that was not related to wear and tear.
Right. No, I would agree. I think. Yeah. So you probably, somebody in the NHL who, by the way, we have analytics for everything else.
Yes.
Why don't we get some analytics on that?
I don't know that we're going to get. Yeah, we can get the total number of injuries, but we're not going to get a breakdown of these. Seem to be more in the wear and tear.
No, it'd be more of like
strain.
Hamstring. Yeah. I would like to know that. I would look lower body injury. Okay, what does that mean? We know if it's a fracture or not. Is that a hammy? Is that a quad? Is it a groin? Look, you're trying to tell me you're throwing analytics about, hey, this player's warm zone, and he's a he's a plus 20 when he's 20 feet around the net. Like I don't want that. I want to see some data. We get all these juicy statistics to employ people, and that's fine. I'm all for employment, but if we're going to keep increasing the games to what next year is going to be a little bit more, are the players built to play the way they're playing longer? And you talk about the quality of play. We want to see the best at the very end of this thing. And I don't want to see guys out because potentially maybe their bodies are just breaking down.
Well, there is no disputing, based on this stat that I was giving about all the overtime games, and objectively I can say there are more overtime games being played at the start of this year than we've had in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Which means the games are close, which means the teams are digging in.
Yeah.
The Lightning had that game against, what was the game they had recently? New Jersey. They kind of broke the game open in the third. They got to kind of coach the last 10 minutes of that game.
Right.
Right. Those games, not just for the Lightning, for a lot of teams, have been very, very rare.
Sure.
So you are going full bore all the way to the end. And maybe playing with that level of intensity leads to more injuries. Look at the Alexander Romanov injury, where he's going to be out 5 to 6 months for the Islanders. It's a huge blow. Islander fans wanted Rantanen to be like thrown in jail with the key, tossed away, locked, and get rid of the key. And what Glenn Gulletson said at the time, the head coach of the Dallas Stars, which was met with like tremendous pushback, I think, from Islander fans and generally from what I saw on social media, not that I spent a lot of time on it, but I saw some of kind of the general pushback, was that I'm really sorry Romanov got hurt, but if you watch the replay, Rantanen, who boards him and got a major, does clip skates with one of the Islander players slightly, but he's going in full speed, and then they clip skates and he loses his balance. And, he's trying to brace himself, and he shoves Romanov into the boards. So fans can say what they're going to say about the DOPS. The DOPS took a look at it, and they didn't give any supplemental discipline to Rantanen. So they clearly saw it much the same way that Gulletson saw it. Now, a couple of games later, Rantanen took another, I think it may have actually been against Calgary. He took a major. And you get 2 majors in a set amount of time, it's an automatic 1-game suspension. So, I mean, that was not even open to review. But why is Rantanen going in at the end of it? They were down by 1. It's the closing minute. Yeah. He's trying to get the puck on the forecheck. If the game is 6-1, he's not going in like that.
Not doing that. No, he's not.
Right?
No.
So I think that there's some of that where it's just a bad circumstance, and fans may be like, he should have gotten suspended. I'm not here to get on a soapbox for Mikko Rantanen. Right. I'm just telling you like how it played out. But that play probably doesn't happen if you're not looking at a 1-goal game in the final minute.
Yeah.
Where the Stars are down and they're like, we need this puck, right? I'm going in to forecheck and, something happened, right? Game moves quickly.
For sure.
Guy got hurt.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
Before I forget, tonight, enjoy some Refrom. Smooth, versatile, now pouring at Benchmark International Arena. Order a tropical wave or a lightning mule and taste why fans are switching. Refrom is a premium craft Florida local rum built on authenticity, quality, and easy drinkability. Ask for Refrom by name. Go Bolts. Enjoy responsibly. And we should say enjoy responsibly, particularly tonight. Because what do they call tonight? Is it amateur night? Or is that New Year's Eve?
Halloween Eve. What am I saying? Thanksgiving Eve. This is a very big night in the NHL, traditionally. I think 15 games, and then there are 15 more games on Black Friday. Some of those games are going to be in the afternoon, including the Lightning in Detroit.
Yeah.
All the games are at night tonight.
But drink responsibly tonight.
Drink responsibly.
I mean, everybody's going to be out, and obviously, happy Thanksgiving. We are going to be, this is our last show. I think you mentioned this yesterday, until Monday, because we have a game Friday at, noon, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're going to be, right there. But
so we'll have, 1, 2, 3 games to recap on Monday.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot.
We probably won't be able to recap all 3.
Yeah, and we're not going to make it a 2-hour show, but we are going to recap as much as we can. That'll spill over into Tuesday, but that's fine. But be responsible tonight and be safe. We of course, that's the biggest thing we want to take from all of that. Let me get to some more questions. Let me get to Carl. I'm just going to go Carl. Now that the dust has settled,
Carl Sagan. I don't know if this is... Carl Sagan's no longer with us, is he? I don't think so.
I don't know.
Is this like the spirit of Carl Sagan?
I don't know.
I
don't
doubt
know.
it. All right.
He's saying, now that the dust has settled with Stammer, what for JBB did he see in him that others maybe didn't? Seemed like his one-timer specialist and maybe face-off help, but otherwise, 8 million a year, Albatross in Nashville. Not good in what's happening in Nashville. Of course, they're talking about Stamkos, probably other veterans there as well. What did Julian see that others didn't? I think he wanted to keep him, just not at his price.
Yeah. That's what Carl Sagan is saying that, like, what did he see to not offer him
age?
Basically meet Stamkos' demands.
Age, and there's only a certain amount of money you can pay out to everybody else. And while in many ways it's still unthinkable that somebody like Steven Stamkos was not going to retire as a member of the Tampa Bay Lightning or play his whole career in Tampa Bay, you do know that this does happen in sports. It is very hard to stay with one team. You often hear the saying, if Wayne Gretzky can get traded, anybody can.
Right.
And I think that's fair. Phil, obviously played for a couple of teams. But I think there are things metrically that they had data on that other teams did as well. And I think that was in line with what they were willing to pay.
Yeah.
Factor in there's other people they had to take care of that they felt like deserved what they deserved based off of where they were in their career. You've got to make those hard decisions. When you overpay for somebody who is heading towards the downside of their career, in a cap era, your margin for error is smaller.
Right.
You cannot
Although
make
the cap
those
is
moves.
going up.
It is
so,
now
I mean,
going
we
up.
need to mention this. That
It is
the
going
number
up.
is the number, but as the cap goes up, the percentage that number impacts your total cap hit becomes lower.
And as long
But
as...
it was still, we will call it a significant
Yes.
contract.
You just have to be more cognizant of that as a GM. And if that means that you have to move on from a star player, again, it's not like he didn't offer him a contract. He did. It just wasn't in line with what Stamkos' camp wanted.
Right.
And that's what they did. So
You're always going to end up paying more to get a free agent during the offseason
yeah.
than if you're re-signing the same player, let's say, or maybe, you do have to pay at the deadline to acquire a player.
Yeah.
But when you have 31 teams competing with you potentially, or let's say 30 if the player is not going back to his previous team, you have to make an offer that's going to give you a shot, because it's like a blind auction, right? You don't know what the other teams are offering. So understanding that, Nashville probably felt this is the number that we need to offer to get Stamkos here because we really want him. But the fan was saying, what did Julian know that the 31 other GMs didn't? I'm not sure that 31 other GMs all were willing to make Stamkos that offer, but it only takes one, right?
Yeah.
So Nashville made the offer, and that's the one that we heard about.
At Bolts Radio, if you want to get involved in the conversation, you certainly can. Let's get to Dustin. In most games that I watch, shooting the puck from everywhere works because you just never know it may go in. Well, that's...
Well, there is a logic to
pretty
that.
good,
We've addressed this topic as it seems to plague the Lightning at times when they pass up a shot. And there's no doubt there are times when the Lightning probably are passing up a shot and making a pass that either leads to nothing or a less advantageous shot. Guys in the middle of the ice, passes to the side. The reason you're passing to the side is to get the goalie moving. As opposed to in the middle of the ice, it's a better angle, but the goalie is set. Okay? So it is kind of baked into the Lightning's DNA. They like to move the puck to get the goalie moving to give their shooter on the receiving end of the pass a better chance to score simply because the goalie is moving as opposed to set. Even if that means that the angle to the net may be less advantageous. But they're also trying to make a split-second decision in time to decide, like, what should I do? All right. Understanding that there are times when the Lightning, in retrospect, would be way better off shooting than passing. The complete other end of the spectrum are the teams that just are constantly funneling pucks to the net. And when you talk to people who cover those teams who get frustrated by it, it's like, we're taking these shots, they have no chance of going in. So like Dustin's point, like they may go in, yeah, but NHL goalies usually, if they can see the puck, unless it's an exceptional shooter, there's no screen, there's no tip, it's just a puck funnel to the net, they're going to stop it. And if you're shooting a puck to the net that the goalie is stopping, assuming he's not covering it for a whistle, you're hoping for a rebound. That rebound may not come to your team. So you may be shooting and losing the puck. That is a consideration. Now, the teams that really have it going are like shoot, rebound, retrieve, shoot, rebound, retrieve. And it just, it's like a snowball rolling downhill. That doesn't always happen. So I think what has served the Lightning best is not losing their identity, not losing their DNA.
No.
I mean, you look at the play that Hagel made to Cirelli the other night.
Yeah.
Hagel does not just shoot the puck to the net. He holds on to it. The D-man, it was Emil Andre. Emil Andre is trying to block the pass. Hagel doesn't pass it. He goes wide. The passing lane opens. The goalie is now ready for a Hagel shot. Hagel passes it to Cirelli, and Cirelli is able to put it into an open side of the net. The pass was the right play there. That's what a high-skill team with high-skill players can do. So sometimes passing is the right play. But when the Lightning are really... So the Lightning need to have a mix, but I think the mix serves them best when they are passing more than just shooting. So I don't think you want them to completely like undergo a metamorphosis and change who they are. But I think when they get into trouble, they're not doing enough shooting. Like it's the run-pass mix in football. You need to be able to do both, but the Lightning will probably always be a team, particularly when their top six is on the ice. They are looking to make a play. And I don't think you want to completely change who they are. They've scored a lot of goals playing this way, right? It's just that when it dips too far onto that end of the spectrum, we can see it and it becomes obvious they need a goal and they're passing up shot attempts. So when they absolutely need to, they do have more of a shooting mentality. Remember that third period in Detroit near the start of the year? The Lightning were down 1-0. That was one of their best periods of the year in the early weeks when they were struggling. But they dominated that third period, and they finally got the game tied. But they were shooting everything at the net there because they needed a goal, and they really did simplify. But that's hard to do. It's hard to, whatever the shots were, like 18-4 or something like that in that period. The shot attempts were very lopsided. You can't just do that every single period. So
it's a good point, and it's one that we like. I think this is an interesting question. I don't know if we will be going live, but for a show, but in terms at night, Michelle wants to know, went to the block party live last with Hetty, and it was awesome. Any chance you guys would ever do a live show with an audience? I listen to you every day, and a live Q&A would be great.
Thank you, Michelle. That's a little beyond our pay grade. We go where we're told to go.
Yeah.
That's a Steve Versnick question.
Yeah.
Not to put Steve
Of course,
on
the key to that
spot.
would be making sure you have an audience.
Yeah. Victor Hedman draws a crowd. I'm not sure that
we'd have to promote that a little bit.
A crowd as much.
Listen, as much
yeah,
as
I mean, as much as we love Greg Wolf and Braden Coburn, if they were just at Cigar City, just the two of them, without a Lightning player or John Cooper or Julian Breezeball, who, they've been the guests when they've done.
We got to
shows.
incentivize some people because we don't want to do a show if there's one person there. Hey, look, no offense to that one person, but
Right.
you want to make it worthwhile for the people there, and that's all fair.
But thanks for the sentiment, Michelle.
I love that. FKA 322 Radish has been a stabilizing factor for the team recently. He has been outstanding. This one's a good question because I think it's fair to talk about. JJ says, would you like to know your feelings on Gonzo? He looks to be trying, but also seems to make some mistakes. I was expecting more this year. I get there are injuries, and he's filling a spot.
He hasn't really gotten his footing this year.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know what the lineup's going to look like tonight. As you can see, if you're watching the video stream, I'm at home. We have the whole family is back. So I'm leaving, of course, tomorrow. So I'm going to miss the kids the rest of their Thanksgiving break, but we're spending the day together other than prepping for the game and doing the show with you and going to the game tonight to broadcast. So I didn't go to the morning skate today. It was an optional. So, I mean, we didn't see the full group, but most of the full group that is going to be playing skated yesterday. And during the line combinations yesterday, you had Finley, Gonsalves, and Bjorkstrand as, I mean, really, they were the third line. If we're going to call Gord, Gergensons, and Holmberg, I think that line will be reunited tonight. So you want to call them the fourth line. That was the third line. Gonsalves has yet to really settle in and show us what he showed us last year in the second half of the year. I think that's one reason why he's bounced around a lot. I don't know if he's going to
That's
be
fair.
playing with Finley and Bjorkstrand tonight. We'll have to wait and see. Douglas would be the odd guy out if we kind of looked at the lineup that way, because the Lightning are getting Holmberg back, so they're going to have to take a forward who played in the last game out of the lineup.
Let's say K-Bay says, "Hey, Dave and Greg, any quick opinions on the coming up back-to-back with the Red Wings and the Rangers?"
Well, there are 2 afternoon games, so the back-to-back part of it is not really going to be. It's not like they're getting into New York at 2:00 in the morning and playing a rested team. The Rangers, I think, also play on Friday, so afternoon game. So that part of it, shouldn't be a huge disadvantage to the Lightning.
Do we have an idea?
It may not
maybe
be a disadvantage at all.
Yeah.
There are 2 good teams, though. I mean, the Red Wings were a point ahead of the Lightning heading into the action on Monday. They happened to lose a game in New Jersey in which I think they had 30-plus shots, lost by a goal.
Lightning are in first place right now, currently, as
By
we
a
speak,
point,
doing
yeah.
the show. Yes.
So, I mean, again, the standings position, I wouldn't lay too much stock into where things are.
How would you divvy up
are
the
settling
goaltending, you
now.
think? You think Vasi, Detroit?
I think so. Last time they had a back-to-back, they started in Detroit and they went to Columbus, and Vasilevsky got the Detroit game. Again, it's a divisional opponent versus a non-divisional opponent.
Yeah.
Like, of the 2 games, not that the Red Wings are playing the Rangers. The Lightning are playing the Red Wings, a divisional opponent, then they're playing the Rangers, a non-divisional opponent. If you were to ask me, I would expect Vasilevsky gets the start tonight, and he gets the start Friday, and Johansson plays Saturday.
I think that's
But we'll
fair.
see.
I think that's fair. And a lot of people have asked me the question, what does the team usually do for Thanksgiving?
We have actually been on the road for the day of Thanksgiving the last few years, and they play on the road on Black Friday, and they usually have some sort of a team meal at a facility. Sometimes it's a restaurant, sometimes it's in the hotel for the players.
Yeah.
And we like the ancillary staff usually gets an invite too. So there are some years where the teams will have later in the afternoon, so you can actually have, I guess, a Thanksgiving meal earlier in the day. This one we're leaving at like 1:00 though. So, if the flight's at 1, I'm on the road, in the 11 o'clock hour.
Yeah, I was going to
So
say,
I'm just gonna
what
have
time are you
tomorrow
leaving?
morning.
Yeah.
Tomorrow morning. That's it.
Now, you big, I mean, you keep yourself fit. Are you a big Thanksgiving, give me some
yeah, I
turkey,
like
mashed
it.
potatoes,
Yeah, so I mean, the huge turkey, you correct me if I'm wrong. The huge turkey is usually if you have a lot of people
Sure.
at a table, like
Yeah.
either you're hosting or you're going somewhere.
Correct.
We just really haven't had that. A lot of it is that I'm usually on the road afterward.
Yeah.
Even when the kids were home. So, I mean, we haven't really done a huge, cook the turkey for 12 hours, which
Yeah.
wouldn't be me.
Right.
Although I did see my wife had a turkey in the refrigerator.
There you
She's
go.
like, I think I'm going to cook it and just have it not to eat all
Yeah.
that day. But we've done some restaurants. Am I allowed to say restaurant names? We've done a few of the staples that make the Thanksgiving meal available. You buy it, right? So they kind of prepare it for you, just heat it up.
Mm-hmm.
That's a more manageable size. And sometimes we've gone off the grid a little bit and done something that's not turkey. But I like the sides. I like
Everybody likes the
stuffing.
sides. I wonder how many
mashed
people
potatoes, right?
Yeah, cranberry. My kids and my wife love cranberries, which is
The actual cranberries or the
Yeah.
kind in the jar that has
the
like
jar.
the ring.
Yeah, the jar. Yeah, that's exactly it. It's like the one thing in a can that actually tastes pretty good.
Right. Well, they add
I-
a lot of sugar to it because I
They
think if
do.
you eat a raw cranberry, it's
Yeah,
a much
not the
different
same.
experience.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
But the sides are always, you feel like the sides and dessert
Yeah.
feel like it's a bigger deal than the turkey. I think a lot
Christmas
of-
is your favorite, right?
well, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
not everyone feels
Yeah,
that
for
way.
sure. Yeah, no. For
Some
sure.
people
I'd
love
say.
Thanksgiving. It's like this is
No,
my
they
favorite.
do. I think this is the best time of the year because you're going into, you've got Thanksgiving, then you're heading into Christmas, and
Mm-hmm.
then you're heading into the New Year, which I think are 3. Not for everybody, but certainly the emotion should be a little bit, uplifting. It's just the end of
Yeah.
the year. People are getting ready to have some time off, and
It's never a bad
You
thing
know.
to give thanks.
never.
Gratitude is impactful. I mean, I don't mean to be preachy here, but I should do it more than I do. I'm always reminded that I feel good when I
Yeah.
practice it. So I like the spirit of the holiday, that's
Yep.
for sure.
Right.
And it's hard to argue with the December holiday spirit, of giving and goodwill toward mankind. I mean, who's going to argue against that, right?
Who is going to argue with that?
I give thanks for you and having a chance to do this show 5 days a week. It's a lot of fun.
This show, we have a tight-knit, we call it little family, work family here that we've been together for a while. So that part is always fun. And then, we get a chance to see the boys tonight as well with Phil and Chief and Eric, Ben, and all of them. And it's a lot of fun. So we hope everybody does have a great Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Be safe. Of course, you can
you
listen.
didn't tell me. We can go over a minute. Does your family do the enormous...
Not a huge
turkey
but we have we will have a turkey, and then my
Yeah.
wife will make some sides. And look, when you have
Nice.
3 kids under the age of 9, sometimes it's mac and cheese. But we try to get them
That
to
can be a
taste.
side of Thanksgiving.
It is.
It's become
it is. We have
accepted, yes.
Thank you, Publix. No, so there are things we have them try though, because I think it's important. Hey, look, we made this food. Try it before
Right.
we go to the old reliable, which is
Yeah.
the chicken tenders or the.
Just put a
the mac
can
and
of
cheese.
cranberry sauce in front of each of them with a can
I'll
opener.
give it to Enzo and see what Enzo
Yeah.
does. What the heck?
Give them,
He might
here's
have-
your thing. Here's
Yeah.
a can.
That's right.
Can opener.
That's
a plate.
right.
and a
have
spoon.
have a little bit of fun
Yeah.
with that. But I hope everybody does have a great Thanksgiving from us here at Power Lunch to you guys. We appreciate you listening every day. You can listen, of course, to the game tonight, listen to the game on Friday, listen to the game on Saturday, and then we will be back in this setting on Monday.
Yeah, that'll be
recapping all the
an
games.
off day, actually a travel day, if you want to call it that, from
Okay.
Manhattan to Long Island for the Lightning. So we may have to pre-tape. I'll
Okay.
keep you guys posted.
We'll
on
figure
what's
that one
going
out.
on.
Yeah, no problem for that. All right, partner. I'll talk to you tonight, but happy Thanksgiving. At
You
least
too.
officially on this show.
Yep.
And to
See you
Steve
tonight.
Versnick and Jared Johnson. We appreciate you guys. Lightning and Flames tonight. I'm Greg Linnelli. You've been listening to Power Lunch on Lightning Radio.